Okay, the next option on the list is limited liability company or LLC. I'm sure you've heard of them before. So this is a little different than a sole proprietorship. It's designed to provide the limited liability features of a corporation and the tax efficiencies and operational flexibility of a partnership. And I know we haven't touched on partnership, we won't, but I'll get into a little bit what an LLC is. It's kind of like a hybrid structure. So typically there's more than one owner of an LLC, and instead of called owners, they're called members. An LLC is not taxed as a separate entity. So what happens? It's kind of like a sole proprietorship. All the profits and losses are passed through the business to each member. So just kind of like with a sole proprietorship, whatever the profits are for that company goes right into your tax return. Well, with an LLC, it's the same kind of way, but there can be more people as recipients of it. So you just spread out the losses, you spread out the profits among all the members of the LLC. Now, forming an LLC, a little bit more complex than a sole proprietorship. You need to find a name that's different from other LLCs in the state. So if there's somebody else in the state that has the same name that you want, you got to pick a different one. You've got to include LLC at the end of the name just to differentiate your business from corporation or sole proprietorship. And then finally, there's usually a list of names or keywords or terms or things that your state says you can't include in the name of your company. You got to be familiar with that as well. You got to file as an organization, so the articles of an organization. So you got to pay a fee, and you got to supply all the relevant business information. So it's just like where's the company located, what does the company do, who can we contact if we have questions, and that way if anybody wants to know who this LLC is run by, they can get that information. You got to obtain licenses and permits, a little bit different from a sole proprietorship, and the fees vary from state to state. In fact, some states it's like a couple $100, but if you're in the state of New York, if you're in New York, I think it's like $3,000 to set up an LLC there. So that could be significant depending upon where you're located and how much upfront money you really want to invest in starting this structure of a business. Now it could be down the road after maybe you started as a sole proprietorship and you want to transition into an LLC. Making a $2,000 investment into these licenses and permits could be a decent idea. It could be worth it. But just worth considering. Just go to your state. I go to the state of Minnesota's website, and you can type in LLC. And again, you're trying to find information on how you can pay them money. So they're going to make it really easy for you to find that, and you can find all the fee structures and all that kind of stuff there for an LLC. And you got to hire employees in accordance with state and federal regulations. I don't know how this is any different than a sole proprietorship. I mean, you'd have to adhere to all regulations regarding hiring people and being an equal opportunity employer and all that. So, worth looking into, though. Next, you need to announce your business by publishing a statement in the paper. And we kind of talked about this with the sole proprietorship if you want to do a DBA. But you are doing a DBA as an LLC, so you need to usually publish something in a legal journal or newspaper in your county. Just again, connecting your name with the company and contact information. So if somebody wants to know who's behind the company, they can find that information. It's public knowledge. Now, an LLC for taxes, it's not a separate entity in the government's eyes because all the P&Ls, all the profits and losses kind of funnel through to the members of the organization. It's almost viewed as like a sole proprietorship. But you can there is flexibility for filing. You can file your taxes as a corporation, as a partnership, or as a sole proprietor. So if there is ways to take an LLC company and file like a corporation. And so if you're interested in doing that, then that'd be worth looking into. Now, the advantages of an LLC, I've kind of alluded to some already. There's limited liability, so people are protected from personal liability for business decisions and actions of the LLC, such as debt or litigation. So if the company fails financially, the cost of that doesn't trickle into the people who are members of the LLC's personal assets. And also for litigation as well, too. If somebody takes the LLC to court, they can't sue and then look for compensation outside of the LLC. There's less record keeping when you compare it to like an S corp. It's pretty from an operational standpoint, it's pretty easy to start up, and the costs are much smaller than they would be for a corporation. The other neat thing about a LLC is again, it's like the members decide how the profits are distributed. So who gets what? It all there's no like there's no regulations. You don't have to do committee meetings. You don't need to take votes from shareholders. There's not a lot of hoops to jump through and regulations and compliance stuff. Literally, all the owners of all the members of the LLC get together. They figure out how they want to divide out the profits, and then they move on with their lives. Now, disadvantages of LLCs is limited life. So, in many states, as soon as one member leaves the LLC, they require that the LLC clean up all of its legal stuff, close down shop, close out the business fully, and then if they wanted to start business again, they'd have to start that whole process all over again of setting up an LLC. So kind of a bummer there that has to be in here, because depending on your partnerships, if your partnerships are coming and going, that could really create a lot of extra work for you. Also, self-employment taxes. Members are considered self-employed and must pay contributions towards Medicare and Social Security. So the entire net income of the LLC is subject to tax, because the LLC is like intrinsically connected to the members of the organization, because all the profits are funneling to individuals. That means that there's no income that's left over. All the income that the LLC ever makes in a year is taxed at the employment tax rate, which is much higher than some of the other options out there. Exactly the same as a sole proprietorship, because that's exactly what you're doing with a sole proprietorship. You're getting all the income, and then you just tax it. It just comes onto your personal tax return form, and then you just have to pay taxes out of that total amount. So in conclusion, there's some great tax advantages to the LLC versus sole proprietorship. I think it just kind of structures the company a little differently. There's some freedom and flexibility there, and definitely worth people considering. I think that if you're at a sole proprietorship right now and you're thinking about incorporating some of the things that into your company that would benefit from an LLC versus sole proprietorship, then definitely worth looking into.